I just got back from a holiday in Scotland, and I was really impressed with the city of Edinburgh, and I can't wait to go back. There's just so much to see and do there. But something that's very interesting is a little black dog that they have a statue to there that it's kind of a symbol of the city, actually. The whole city of Edinburgh took this little dog to their hearts because many, many years ago, this little dog, whose name was Bobby, just loved his master, and that when the master died, he was buried at the Greyfriars Abbey, and this little dog for 14 years came every day to his master's gravesite to sort of sit vigil over it until he finally passed away. And they built a statue to him there, and you can go and you can pet the statue if you want to. But the point is this: Greyfriars Bobby represents devotion to the master, devotion to his master. And that just did something in my heart that said, am I devoted to my master to be faithful? In Matthew chapter 25, Jesus tells a story of a man that goes away, and he delivers 5 talents to one servant. He delivers 2 talents to another servant, and 1 talent to the third. The one that has 5 produces 10, the one that has 2 produces 4, and the one that has 1 buries it and doesn't do anything with it. But the first 2 guys, when the master returns and they give him the doubling of whatever he delivered to them, he says to them, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. Well done, my good and faithful servant. You've entered into the joy of the master. You've entered into his good favor. You've entered into his desire to bless, and he's going to give you more." He says, "I'm going to give you, set you over more because you've been faithful." And that's the point, that a little dog can teach us what it means to be faithful to our master, what it means to be a servant that recognizes our master as the only one we're going to be faithful to. And I found it so interesting that this little dog doesn't want a new master. He says, I am going to be faithful to my master even though he's not here anymore. And I think it's interesting that we have this parallel of Jesus, who we are called to be faithful to even though he's not here anymore, but he will return. Unlike with Bobby, he dies with his master never returning. We are going to see our master again. We are going to be able to embrace. We are going to be able to find ways for him to say, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." One of the accolades that the Bible, the great men of the Bible have, is to be called the servant of God. The quintessential servant of the Lord is of course Moses. My servant Moses is a phrase that's used over his name more than anyone else's. Second to that is my servant David. And I think David wanted to be called God's servant because of Moses. And in fact, even when we talk about the prophets, they call themselves servants because of Moses. So Daniel, in his repenting and confession of sin in Daniel chapter 9, he says, "Lord, we have not obeyed your servants, the prophets." And so to be called a servant of God is not just about a lowly position. When Paul calls himself a servant, he says, Paul, a servant and apostle of Jesus Christ, he's not saying that he's just a knockabout guy. He's talking about that as a place of honor, the humility of honor. Isn't that a kind of contradiction in terms? To be able to be chosen by God to serve him. That is a privilege. In the parable that Jesus told, the guys that took their talents and they doubled it, they are the people who understood that it's a privilege to be a servant of this master. With the one that buried it, he says, "I know you're a hard man and you reap where you didn't sow." And he says, "I'm not going to serve you. I'm just going to deliver you what you gave." And the guy is upset with it. And he says, "Look, I could have just given it to the bank and gotten interest on it." And he casts him out. I don't want to be cast out because I see my master as harsh and unforgiving. I want to understand that To serve God, there's a cost. To serve God, there is things you have to go through. The humility that comes with serving God is bought with a price. It is not for free. You have to go through some stuff. But at the end of the day, he's going to look at you and he's going to say, well done, my good and faithful servant. So I'm not saying they're going to build a statue to you and that people are going to pat your head, but I am going to say this. Jesus sees your service. Jesus knows, and he wants to honor those who are faithful.